We've got another fan in the studio of Arsenal. It's Darren Bent this morning. So, Darren, where would you like to start with the dissection of that performance last night?
No, listen, it wasn't good enough. You knew that it was going to be a tough place to go. St James's Park, good run. Eddie Howe, good coach, good players back. I mean, Callum Wilson, what a performance he put in last night.
He did it without a tooth.
He did it toothless. I know. But no, it was disappointing, and unfortunately for Arsenal, when they needed to show composure and most discipline, they didn't. They had a lack of experience last night, and you have to say they had the 4 performances before that, which were very, very good, and you thought, right, they've set themselves up nicely. But when you look at the performance against Spurs, for me, it completely took the wind out of their sails. They went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, got absolutely blasted. Rob Holding lost his head. Obviously, the penalty, getting beat 3-0, the atmosphere. And then they go from one cauldron into another. They get beat by Tottenham, hostile atmosphere, go up to St James's Park, and it's the exact same thing. They couldn't handle the pressure, the occasion. They probably couldn't handle the fact that everyone was saying, yeah, it's theirs for the taking. And fair play to Spurs, they've kept their head when they've needed it the most. And now it looks like they're going to get top 4. So it's disappointing. But listen, what I will say is it's not failure. Because I've heard so many people start talking, yeah, it's failure. Well, listen, Arsenal were 8th last season, rock bottom after 3 games, and they're still going to be back in Europe. How can that be failure? I know we spent a lot of money, but it's the youngest squad in the Premier League. So it's not failure. Yeah, of course it's disappointing not to be playing in the best club competition in the world, but it's still a step forward. Yeah,
it's a young squad, but it's also a thin squad as well.
Exactly.
And we should have strengthened in the window in January. I don't know a single Arsenal fan that was happy with the business that was done with all of the sales and none of the incomings.
Some of the ones that are still there, I mean, the likes of, listen, I don't really like digging players up, people like Cedric. Like, not good enough to play for Arsenal Football Club. That's an issue. I love Tierney. I think he's one of the best when he's fit. But you can't go into the Premier League campaign. I know he's got Tavares, and Tavares actually started off his Arsenal career okay. But when obviously the pressure started to mount up and we need to depend on him, he's been nowhere to be seen. And Tierney, I mean, I love Tierney, but you can't go into a full Premier League season next season where your number 1 left back's very, very good, but doesn't really play that many games. You're going to have to get someone else in to push him, to rival him. So he's got a big job in the summer, but he's got to bring bodies in.
Okay, I want to read something out. So Granit Xhaka, basically, he was trending last night. He was trending this morning as well. He's been trending constantly because of his comments post-match. He said for the first 90 minutes, he said, from the first minute to the 90th, we didn't deserve to be on the pitch. We didn't do what the game plan was. We were not listening to the coach. What happened was a disaster performance. You don't deserve to play Champions League or even Europa League with that display. I don't know why we're not doing what the coach is asking of us. If someone isn't ready for this game, stay at home. It doesn't matter about your age. If you're nervous, stay on the bench or stay at home. You need people to have the balls to come here and play. It's one of the most important games for us. Now, he was savaged for these comments, actually. In the studio, Monday Night Football, the guys didn't appreciate those comments at all.
I can understand it.
Do you know what? I'm going to disagree with you if you're disagreeing with Xhaka, because I actually think we are so critical of players when they don't come out and say something from the heart. I think this was really from the heart. I don't think he was digging out the younger players. I don't think that's what he was doing, because he was asked a question by Pat Davidson about the inexperience of this team, and he was basically saying, no, we're not going to use that as an excuse. It's not an excuse. They played badly, and he's saying he accepts that. He said he didn't do what they as a team didn't do what the coach told them to do. I actually think you guys can tell me more. Sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason. You're just not at the races. It could be the pressure, could be anything, could be individual mistakes on the pitch, whatever. He's coming out and he's had the guts to come out and do that interview and be really honest and speak from the heart. I also think sometimes we jump down these players' necks for the exact language that they use, and we analyse to the nth degree exactly the different words they're using. It's not his first language for a start. Yes, he speaks fluent English and he lives in England. But if I were to go to a different country and have to come straight off the back of a performance like that, in a massive game, biggest one of the season so far, it was a dreadful performance, and then I've got a camera in my face and I've got to answer these interviews. Yeah, it's part of your job, but I just think I would rather not take the negatives from that interview. The negatives of the performance, I don't think the interview is the one that needs to get completely savaged. I just thought that he was speaking from the heart, and I thought it was actually commendable. Do you not agree?
I don't know. Maybe because it's Xhaka, and maybe that's a little bit unfair, because at times he's let Arsenal down in his Arsenal career, and even this season, red cards, silly mistakes. But I guess if he's talking about the performance solely last night, then of course I can understand it, because obviously he's part of the problem. He's come out there, he knows the importance of of what it means that game, not getting into the top four, the performance, not showing up when you needed it the most. So from that aspect, I can kind of understand why he's frustrated. But I guess, again, from the dressing room perspective, I can imagine other players who maybe have performed more consistently than he has, probably looking at him thinking, the cheek for you to come out and say that when some of the performances you put in this season. Now, again, he had to fight his way back from remember a couple of seasons back when he threw his shirt down. He fought back from that. Then there's the needless red cards, some of the challenges. Then you go back to Manchester City, giving the penalty away this season. So probably a couple of his teammates probably are looking at him, and he looks like a great guy. When you hear him speak, I think he looks like a really, really good guy. But there will be players in the dressing room thinking, well, hold on a second there, you're digging us out. But look at you over you the last couple of seasons where you've let us down as well, and you're supposed to be one of the senior ones.
Yeah, I agree that he's a hothead at times, and he's done things where you've gone, what on earth, and it's changed games. He's got himself needlessly sent off, like you say. He's made bad tackles. He's got himself booked. I actually think this season, for the majority of the season, apart from maybe a couple, he's been one of the consistent players. I've been quite impressed with him this season. I don't think it's easy in a team where you've had as many injuries as you have.
Young.
And they're so young and they're so thin as well. I don't imagine it's easy. And I think they probably got to the end of the road as far as they could, and they just couldn't hang on any longer.
Run out of steam.
Yeah, that was it really. This is from Stuart Cotton. He says it's failure, Benty, because you threw it away. Don't try and change the narrative. If it was Spurs, you'd be calling it failure through laughing. You're absolutely right. We would be laughing, Stuart.
But it's not failure.
But it's not failure. I don't think
Spurs
either.
finished 7th last season, and if they finished 5th or 4th this season, that's a step in the right direction. Arsenal were 8th last season, rock bottom after 3 games.
Also, the comparison between the two teams, if you're going to go there with Arsenal and Spurs, is that we haven't had Champions League football for 5 years.
Yeah.
So we haven't had that money. We haven't been able to attract those top players. Spurs have been in a position of Champions League football. They have Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. They have a world-class manager as well. There are differences between the two teams. And I just think if they had have made Champions League football, I'll go back to what I did say. My narrative hasn't changed. It would have been an overachievement. That's exactly what I said the whole time.
Failure for me would be, you look at Manchester United, finished 2nd last season, now look like they're going to finish 6th or 7th, and they've added Varane, Sancho, Ronaldo. That's failure.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.